Welcome to I'm No Rookie, the podcast for beauty spa and wellness professionals and anyone ready to level up their career by embracing new opportunities in education and training. So whether you're just starting out or pivoting into the online tutoring space, this podcast is your go-to resource for inspiration, guidance, and practical tips. I'm your host, Ayo, an educator and entrepreneur with over 14 years experience helping professionals like you build their thriving careers. Now, let's dive into today's episode, which is all about creating an engaging virtual classroom. Firstly, engagement goes beyond simply holding your students' attention. It's about fostering a sense of belonging and curiosity. It's creating an environment where every learner, regardless of their background, feels seen, heard, and valued. And inclusivity, that's the foundation of great teaching. It's all about acknowledging diverse learning needs, adapting and approaching, and ensuring no one gets left behind. When you combine the two, engagement and inclusivity, you're not only delivering knowledge, but also empowering your students to feel confident, inspired, and connected. In today's episode, I'm going to share some practical strategies and introduce tools that will help you craft virtual lessons or sessions that are not just interactive, but also very meaningful. So let's start with engagement and inclusivity, which are the foundation of a successful virtual classroom. So when you're teaching, especially online, you don't have the same cues that you get in the physical classroom. There's no immediate feedback from expressions or body language unless you're multitasking and looking at the students' faces whilst you're teaching. That's why your tools, content, and strategies need to work harder to create connections and maintain focus. But beyond engagement, inclusivity is also essential. Every learner deserves to feel represented and valued. Think about the visuals in your presentation or the examples that you use. Do they reflect the diversity of your audience? I once consulted for an online training academy in the beauty sector. The training materials were amazing, but they lacked diversity in their visuals. After we updated the images to reflect a wider range of skin tones, hair types, culture practices, the feedback was so positive. Learners felt seen and the engagement levels actually soared. And I do think that was a result of making the content more diverse and relatable. But the key takeaway is engagement draws learners in, but inclusivity keeps them connected. So let's talk about how to bring these two elements into the virtual room. For me, in order to do that, we need to look at some of the tools and strategies to make your virtual classroom interactive and inclusive. Number one, using post-session quizzes. So quizzes aren't just for assessments. They're a great way to reinforce learning and engage your students. One example is Google Forms. It's fantastic. It's a free tool that does exactly that. You can create a quick post-session quiz to recap the key points and get a sense of how much your learners have absorbed the content. Plus, it's easy to set up and the results are instant. Number two is using something like Mentimeter for live polls and word clouds. So if you're looking to keep your virtual classroom interactive, Mentimeter is a fantastic tool. It provides live polls and word clouds, which are really simple and yet powerful ways to engage your learners and spark collaboration. Imagine asking your audience what's the first thing that comes to their mind when they think about virtual learning. Within seconds, their answers will pop up on the live word cloud. Not only does this kind of grab attention, but it also gives everyone a voice. Perfect for quieter learners who might not feel comfortable speaking up. So here are the ways you can use Mentimeter in your sessions. So let's say you use it in the pre-session kickoff. So you can kick off by gauging their initial knowledge or expectations. For example, what do they hope to learn today? And then you can also use it mid-session check-ins. So this helps to keep the energy levels high with interactive polls. So you could ask, which strategies do you think works best? And then you could also use it for post-session feedback. So you could end your session by asking for key takeaways, areas to improve. Mentimeter's ease of use ensures inclusivity. All learners will need is a link or a QR code to join, making it accessible to everyone. And the best part, it adds a layer of fun and engagement, transforming a standard session into a collaborative experience. The next tool that I recommend is to explore Padlet for collaboration. So I want you to think of Padlet as a virtual bullet board. It's excellent for tools for collaborating activities where learners can post their thoughts, their ideas, or even questions. So whether you're brainstorming or reflecting on a session, Padlet fosters interaction and builds a sense of community. Let's talk about interactive features in Zoom and Google Meet. So if you're hosting live sessions, both Google Meet and Zoom are excellent choices. Google Meet integrates seamlessly with Google Classroom and it's free for sessions up to an hour. It's great for hosting discussions, live Q&A sessions, or even group projects. Whereas Zoom, on the other hand, offers advanced interactive features like polls, breakout rooms. Polls can be set up in advance to engage learners during your sessions, whilst breakout rooms allow for smaller group discussions or activities. Both these tools ensures that your sessions are dynamic and collaborative. The next thing I want to talk about is about building connection in your virtual classroom. So let's be honest, connections can feel a little harder to build when you're teaching through a screen. In a physical classroom, you can rely on body language, shared experiences, and the energy in the room. But online, you need to be more intentional about creating that sense of community and trust. And here's why it matters. Learners who feel connected to their tutor and peers are not only more engaged, but also more likely to retain information and participate actively. So, how do you build that connection in a virtual classroom? First of all, you need to personalize your interactions. Start by showing your learners that they are more than just a name on a screen. Use their names when addressing them. And if your group isn't too large, make an effort to learn a little about their interests and professional goals. Sometimes as simple as asking how their week was or acknowledging their input during a session can go a long way in building that rapport. For example, you might say, "Hey, I saw the question you posted earlier. Great insight. Let's address it now. How did that new skincare routine you mentioned last week go? Any feedback?" It's like anything. When someone remembers a previous discussion and actually shows that they care, you have more of a connection with them. So try that. The start of any session can feel a bit awkward, especially if your group isn't familiar with one another. Let's just say this is a new class. That's where the icebreakers come in. Not only do they set a positive tone, but they also encourage interaction and help learners feel more comfortable. For inspiration, check out our guide, 15 icebreaker ideas to kickstart your virtual classroom. So whether it's a quick word cloud or on your favorite products using Mentimeter or a light-hearted would you rather poll, these activities warm up the room and make learning more kind of fun. People are more willing to participate. Another thing that we need to focus on when it comes to virtual classroom for improving engagement is all about you being present and authentic. Connections thrive on authenticity. Be present during your sessions, not just physically, but mentally. Show your personality, share stories, and don't be afraid to admit if something's not working. For instance, if a tech glitch happens, handle it with grace and humor. Learners appreciate tutors who are real and relatable. Also, share your own experiences, whether it's a funny story about a past student, obviously no names, or a lesson that you learnt the hard way. These personal touches humanize you and create an environment where learners feel safe to share their own stories. And then we need to encourage interactions and collaborations. So moving away from that one-sided lecture and make your lessons a two-way street. Use breakout rooms for group activities, create collaborative documents in Google Docs, or run live polls with tools like Mentimeter. When learners work together, they feel more invested in the process and they build connections with their peers as well as with you. And I also think it's so important to celebrate wins. Acknowledge and celebrate your learners' achievements, big or small. So whether someone completes an assignment, share a great idea, or asks a thoughtful question, take a moment to highlight it. A quick well done, everyone, or a more specific shout out. Excellent point. Thank you for sharing. This reinforces positive behavior and it also boosts morale. Connection isn't just a nice to have in a virtual classroom, it's a must have. When learners feel connected, they are more engaged, they're more motivated, and more likely to succeed. And by personalizing interaction using icebreakers, being authentic, encouraging collaboration, and celebrating wins, you can create a virtual classroom where learners thrive and where you thrive as an educator. Engaging your learners online doesn't have to be complicated. It just takes the right tools and strategies. So, like I said before, you can use Google Forms for post session quiz to assess and reinforce learning. You can leverage Mentimeter and Padlet for real time interaction and collaboration. You can host your live sessions using Google Meet or Zoom. And don't forget to explore features like polls and breakout rooms. But above all, remember, the focus is on inclusivity. When your learners feel represented and valued, they're more likely to stay motivated and engaged. For links for all the tools mentioned in today's episode, check out the show notes. And if you found this episode helpful, share it with a friend or colleague who's thinking about starting their own online business. Remember, you're no rookie. It's just time to step into the next chapter. So stay confident, keep inspiring, and I'll see you in the next episode.